Normally I give everyone a welcome and I relate the story of how the Amherst Irish Association began. And so many of you have heard that story before. But when we were speaking with John and Maureen last week about getting ready for today's event, they talked about that beginning of how the Amherst Irish Association started, and it's important to them because they're here today. I will repeat the story because it kind of sets the tone for what we've built here. So 8 years ago here in Amherst, there was a regrettable series of events, and it became known as the Blarney Blowout. And it was a drunken revelry, and it was on the front page of national newspapers. Images of students being dragged through the mud, and they were all wearing various shades of green. And Ida and I came together and we spoke about it, and Ida was on fire, I can tell you. But the point of it is that did not represent what it means to be Irish, nor does it represent what it means to be from Amherst. And so we built this to counter that. And here we are 8 years later, and we've gone through this year of not being able to meet together like this. So to see everyone here today, back in person, continuing what we started those 8 years ago, I really feel it. So thank you all, and welcome to all of you. And Ida, I'll have you come back up and do the introductions. We're really privileged to have you all here today.
Thank you, Sam, for being about it. I'll take the gift home. All right, this was our backup, lads. And don't we all need a backup? All right, it sounds a bit tinny, but sure, imagine my dulcet tones. Fáilte Roid Galair, it's my honour to say a few words about Margaret Maher and who we're honouring today, and members from our community who have contributed through their work towards the same sort of aims that we have sought to support in our community. And John and Maureen Sheehan, we'll have greater introductions later, and Amanda Bernhard and Jonathan Kennedy. I'd also like to acknowledge our honoured guest, Leisha Moore, who's from the Boston Consulate, but has responsibility for all of New England, not just a small area. So she's on the road a lot, and we appreciate having her back here in person and her continued support of our efforts from the very beginning. We get a small grant from the Immigrant Support Programme, which enables us to advertise in the local papers. You'll see the most recent ones there on your way in. And it's also a way of spreading the message about positive associations to Ireland and matters Irish in our community. As Sam so wisely said to me when we were doing our downward dog in yoga, there's no way you can control what goes on around St. Patrick's Day, but all you can do is offer an alternative to people to come connect and enjoy one another's gifts and contributions towards one another and their interest in Ireland and matters Irish. So this year's Margaret Maher Award, let us remember who Margaret Maher was. She was from a place called Killusty in County Tipperary, which is very close to Sliabh na Món, which is the mountain of the women. And Killusty is just over the mountain from where Annie and I spend the summers in Lismore. She spent 30 years working as an immigrant domestic servant with the Emily Dickinson and the Dickinson family here in Amherst. And Aoife Moore, the scholar, has published a book, Made as Muse, where she argues that Margaret Maher, or Maggie as she was affectionately called, is responsible for some Hiberno English that appears in Emily Dickinson's work. The most famous example being references to himself. If you want to, and if you're interested, there's a nice note which we've compiled on our Amherst Irish website, amherstirish.org, about Maggie Maher and about the Irish immigrant connections to Emily Dickinson and her family here in Amherst. So we've hitched our wagon to Maggie and by association with Amherst's most famous writer and the poet Emily Dickinson. Fáilte Roimh, welcome. This year's Margaret Maher Award is being presented to two couples representing different generations, committed to preserving and promoting Irish heritage in our community. Sean and Maureen Sheehan, Jonathan and Kennedy and Amanda Bernhard. For decades, John and Maureen from East Hampton have supported activities that promote Irish heritage and culture in our area, from the St. Patrick's Association to the Scholarship Fund, and they'll tell us a little more about that shortly. From the very beginning, they supported the Amherst Irish, and they continue to inspire us by their commitment to fostering positive associations to Ireland and matters Irish in our wider community. John started learning Irish aged 75, and he's been flying at it ever since. Céna Rogagus Togu, Shadachodas Amanda Nairn, Tolifach Natanganako, August is Muntori Imtaki expression. Bonig Shield Seals, Ider Corolla Kela, Conantanga Horkan Keen and Shot Nor Ganter. Is Kjol Theory than Skohi expression of his body and she Dina Kela doing Gach Ein Uramalimid and so. I was taught being Session Kjol, a going and saw Gach Ein Ur, I was being sheed a gem of Kjol more hinkle the Hoyte. US born Jonathan and Amanda are fluent Irish language speakers and dedicated teachers of the language who offer courses via their online platform, Córála Céile. It's on your note there. And they're superb musicians too, and they gather friends to perform for all our Amherst Irish events, and they host sessions throughout the Pioneer Valley to share their love of Irish music and to share their love of Irish culture. And both of them have been directors of our association from the beginning. We are all volunteers. I want to acknowledge Tim, Sam, Annie, where's Annie? Our tea lady, as she likes to refer to herself, but far much more. We do this because we love to do it, and we have incredible support from the community throughout. All our speakers present for free. I also want to especially acknowledge Al Ladd. Al is over here on my left. He is the gifted woodworker who has crafted our Margaret Maher Awards from the beginning. If I can refer to one, is that okay, Tim?
Oh, yes.
Beautifully crafted pieces. Al is one of our regular musicians, and this is his award. Those of you who have received it, I'm sure, in the past have had lots of comments. I'm looking at you, Mike, there. So thank you, lad. All right. Just a few bit of housekeeping. Two members who can't be with us, Colby Smith and Kathy Dunn, sent us in these. They're little packages for your scones. If you don't feel safe eating your scone when you're here, pop it into a bag. We have lots of them, let me believe you, and you can bring them home. So we're trying to be careful in our protocols so that people keep returning knowing that we'll be safe. The windows are open. We have fans that will turn on to circulate the air a little in a while. But for the moment, I'll hush now, welcome you all, Fáilte Roimh Galéir, and just let you know the programme. We're going to have John and Maureen first here, speaking about their connections to Ireland and matters Irish. And then we have some tributes to Jonathan, Sean Amanda. First of all, Naka Ishi, who's one of our loyal musicians, Naka, who's also learning Irish, I believe, and flying at it. And Aidan is there, who's come out from Boston, one of their Irish language students. So, without further ado, may I say you're welcome to Fáilte Roimh. We are honoured to have Laoise Moore with us today. We are proud of what we do here, and we are proud to honour those who are core members of our community, who help and inspire and support us. Thank you.
Let's bring you up here. You're a teacher, Maureen. You're well used to this kind of language.
Okay.
How does that feel? We can put it onto your cruisers if you want. Okay. I'll just put it
I can hold it. Oh, okay.
Very good. There we go.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. My name is Maureen Sheehan, and John and I want to thank the Amherst Association so much for this honor. We really appreciate it, and we were so excited when this group started. We live in Southampton, and we were involved in a group in East Hampton, which is wonderful too. But it was just so great to have this group, and we always felt like so happy when we were here. Like everybody's so friendly, and it was just like going into an Irish home. I said to either one time, I feel like, you know, when you go to Ireland and you go into a home, they're just so welcoming, and get the tea and the scones, and of course we have the tea and the scones. And I was reflecting on why it's so deep inside me, why Ireland and the culture and the language, although I don't speak the language like my husband, but I learned some as a child, and the music, when you hear it, it's just so deep inside me, like it is, I'm sure, for all of you. And I was reflecting on the fact that that's how I grew up. My parents were immigrants from Galway. They came here, and I grew up in a home that always had Irish music. They were always sponsoring a party for the Irish Columban fathers who lived in our area. And so there were always Irish people playing the fiddle and the concertina. And it just was so much a part of us. And then when I was a little girl, my parents started bringing out to this country their nieces and nephews who would live with us until they got settled, and some stayed on longer than others, and others married, whatever. And so I was very connected with my cousins because my parents didn't have very many brothers or sisters in this country. So I got to know my cousins in Ireland through the cousins that were living with me, and they became my brothers and sisters. And that was so important to us, and to this day, we still have that special connection. So Ireland is just in my roots, and I'm so appreciative of that. And John's going to speak about our connections with organizations, but one of the things I've been doing in the last 4 or 5 years is working with, in a small way, the immigrants and refugees. And when I'm with them, as I was last week, helping to move some people, what I think about is, I hope that they can have the same connection with their roots and culture and language as they assimilated into the United States as my parents did. My parents were very, very Irish, but they loved their country and respected everybody. It didn't matter what country they came from. And when I see these folks that don't have the language, and they're just moving into this apartment in this city that they don't know, I just pray that we can be, because we're all have Irish here, that we can remember that they need the same thing that keeps us so connected to our country, I mean to our roots, to Ireland. And John will.
I think you great voice projection. I think you fine voice projection. See how you do. How's that?
That's good.
Now, say something good.
Can you hear me in the back of the room?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Beautiful.
Oh, okay.
It's a big
We're getting all patched up. Yeah, I had to take off the mask because I was all fogged up and I wanted to see your beautiful faces. Well, it's always hard to follow a beautiful Colleen, which I've been doing for 50 years. We just celebrated our 50th wedding anniversary. But that, frankly, it's made me a little nervous, you know, get all these awards and people saying nice things about you, saying, did I die? And all these people are saying these nice things about us. Anyhow, as Maureen said, and I have to say it too, our hats go off and we thank the Amherst Irish Association for this great honor. We're not so sure we deserve it, but we graciously accept anything Irish. And Ida and Sam and Tim have been great from the first time we met them. And it was such a relief because those of you who live in this area know the Blarney blowout. And of course, we would get angry that this was their image, presenting the image of Ireland and Irish people and Irish culture in our community. And we all know how rich our heritage is, and we're proud of it. And it was an affront, frankly, and so we were very, very proud and happy to work with Ida and her team. My parents came, and Tim kindly put up this map. My parents were the green part on the bottom, County Cork, and then the southern part of County Cork is Sheepshead Peninsula. It's shaped like a sheep's head, and it's a peninsula that juts out into the Atlantic Ocean right beside Bantry Bay, so they looked out on Bantry Bay. Beautiful. There's a beach there, and I have 3 stones and my treasures at home. One is from the beach on Bantry Bay where my mother swam. One is from Kilmainham Jail. They still have the stones where they executed the Irish martyrs at the Easter Rising. So I have one from Kilmainham Jail. And the third one is from Savin Hill Beach, where I'm from, which is a part of Dorchester. Anyhow, so my parents came, and it's hard to believe, 100 years ago to this country. They knew each other in Ireland, but they didn't start dating till they lived in Boston together. And they did fall in love, get married, and had 7 children, which is the beautiful part. The sad part is after the 7th child was born, my younger brother, Gerard, when he turned 9 months old, my father died from pneumonia. He had a job at Charlestown Navy Yard, and he had been out of work during the Depression, so he wouldn't stay home. My mother was trying to get him to go to a doctor, but he wouldn't go because he was afraid he'd lose his job. So he kept going, and he got sicker and sicker. Finally, they rushed him to Boston City Hospital, and he died. Was buried on my 3rd birthday. So another memorable birthday for me. He played the fiddle and the accordion. So I often wondered what was in me from him. But from the time I was very, very small, I loved Irish music. It would just go right through my whole body. And so I'm sure that those 2 years I had with him before he died, I was listening to him play the fiddle and the accordion. My sister Peggy always bragged that she would dance. When my dad would play the music, she would dance around the house in great pride. Ida mentioned about the East Hampton group. We're very proud members of the Greater East Hampton St. Patrick's Committee. And it's a funny story how it became the Greater East Hampton Committee. 2001, the East Hampton Committee called me and said, they wanted me to be their marshal in the St. Patrick's Holyoke Parade. And I said, I'm really flattered, but, you know, you have a rule, I know, it just can be people from East Hampton. So if you break that rule, you're going to cause trouble in the community. And they said, no, no, no. I said, well, you better talk it over, make sure. I won't accept till you're satisfied. So they talked it over and they said, we're going to, I said, you'll have to expand it and take in Southampton and West Hampton. So they said, we'll do that. Now it's the Greater East Hampton St. Patrick's Committee. They're a great group of people. And every year we pick someone from one of the 3 towns to be the marshal of our contingent at the parade. And it alternates. One year it's a male, next year it's female. So everything is equal. We also raise money for scholarships and give people scholarships who, you know, from Irish background to write up their connection with Ireland and their Irish culture. And that's been going on for years. The other thing we did is we bought 2 versions of Rosetta Stone Irish. And we donated one to the Edwards Library in Southampton and one to the Lilly Library in Florence. So that anyone doesn't have to have money to have a computer. It's at the library, and we don't do a good job on marketing it, but those 2 libraries have been very nice to host the Irish language. We wanted to make sure the Irish language was in the library system in this area. Ida mentioned how I started studying Irish at 75, and I wished I had started 75 years ago, because I love it. And when I taught our grandsons a couple of Irish songs, they picked them up. I taught them Happy Birthday in Irish. They sang it once. I said, now repeat each word so you'll understand it. And they said, Pops. They call me Pops. Pops, we got it. I said, they only sang it once. They sang it. Yeah, but I couldn't believe it. Another nice story about youth is this young lady called Dana, who was going to go on to great things in this area. I can tell you, she was 9 years old. A few years ago, she called me and said, would you teach me the Irish national anthem in Irish? I said, sure. Why do you want to know that? She said, the AOH and Holyoke asked me to sing it at their St. Patrick's dinner. I said, really? That's great, Dana. When is it? She said, tomorrow. And I said, oh, the youth, the courage of youth. And I cringed, and I said, you'll be at my house tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., and we'll start working on it. We worked all Saturday morning on the Irish national anthem, and Dana sang it that night at the AOH, the Hibernians down in Holyoke. And then last year, there was an Irish program on the local station, WHMP, and she sang the Irish national anthem in this show. They said, where did you learn the Irish national anthem? I said, John Sheehan taught me. You know, but she said to me, Mike Ryan is here with this beautiful wife, and he's one of the leaders of the Daly and Halligan Memorial. Every St. Patrick's Day, we have a big breakfast in Northampton. After the breakfast, we go to the Daly Halligan Monument on Hospital Hill, where these 2 young Irish immigrants were hanged unjustly and falsely accused of murder. The real murderer, you know, confessed on his deathbed, but there was such hatred for Irish and Irish Catholics and immigrants. It was hard to believe, you know, looking at our community today. But there was strong racism and hatred for the Irish. That's why, you know, I couldn't support Maureen's statement enough that we have to realize what our people went through. so that they won't go through what our ancestors did. And Maureen does a lot more work on this than I do. I get tired just watching her work. But she's right. These people coming from their countries, I did work in South America and the West Indies, and know how much these people love their history and their customs, just like we do. We have to help them as a people who went through what they're going through. I think I've said enough. We have to hear from Jonathan and Amanda, who were instrumental in me learning Irish. They started the online courses long before the pandemic, and it gave me a jump start. And thank you, Amanda and Jonathan. And I want to close by wishing you the Irish blessing on you and your families. May the road rise to greet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. The rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. May God hold you in the palm of his hand. And may you be in heaven a half hour before the devil knows you're dead.
My apologies. This is our backup system, so my apologies. There you are, John, in case anybody forgets who you are. Malcolm, do you want to try this, or do you want to try?
I'm going to try
Without.
Okay,
Perfect.
So, as you can probably tell, I don't have Irish roots, but so I don't have the gift of gab. I'd just like to acknowledge what John and Maureen were talking about in terms of remembering the injustices that were visited upon us, our peoples, when we came here. Japanese Americans had a lot of problems too, and it's really important to remember. So I'm going to read this. So thank you to the Amherst Irish Association for the privilege of honoring my good friends and Irish music buddies, Amanda Bernhard and Jonathan Kennedy. I've known both of them since they were both much younger, while I've stayed the same age. And I've had great pleasure watching them develop into stellar human beings. I met Jonathan first. He had hair down the middle of his back at the time. And if memory served, it was at a session. I can't remember if it was at the Harp in Amherst or at the People's Pine in Greenfield, but he arrived with the bar on. And the appearance of someone with a drum can trigger dread in a session. Since many beginners in Irish music think that they can show up with a drum and it's an easy instrument, but they don't know how to play it musically. But to everyone's great relief, Jonathan played it well, with good rhythm and not too loud. His ready smile and quick humor made him an easy person to like. And in the case of opposites attracting, we became friends. I believe I met Amanda through Jonathan. The three of us, along with another friend, had the good fortune to study Irish with Daithí Sproul, who is a world-renowned Irish musician, singer, and scholar of Irish language, while he lived in East Hampton, actually, some years ago. That was a wonderful experience, and I believe it cemented our friendship. The class only lasted 2 to 3 years, and in Amanda and Jonathan's case, as you've heard, they continued their studies. I myself took quite a long hiatus from studying Irish, but in recent years I've actually on Duolingo have studied Irish, and but it doesn't help you with the speaking. So, in very recently, like last week, I started working with Jonathan in an online forum to learn how to speak it. But the language is not my part here. It's the music that I'm here to speak about. When I met Amanda, she already played the fiddle well, and in that has moved from strength to strength. She teaches students the fiddle as well, helping in that way to promote the music. She's also a lovely singer, not only singing traditional songs in Irish and in English. She also sings jazz standards and sings in a swing band as well. She's also studied Irish step dancing and has recently become a piper as well. Jonathan, as many of you are aware, is an accomplished piper and playing that most Irish of instruments, viol and pipes, but he hardly ever plays the drum anymore. As a couple, they've always been amazingly hospitable, and over many years, their home has become one of the primary sites for house sessions in our music community. As you can imagine, this has become especially important during the pandemic, when public sessions became too risky. That's changing some now, but I still like playing in house sessions best. Just you're playing for yourselves that way. They also support local music in general in the town they live in Montague. Jonathan is a member of the, there was a Grange, the Montague Grange, that became the Montague Hall, I think. And there are lots of, well, Montague itself is a very active hotbed of music especially for such a small place. It's an amazing number of musicians who live there. So there are often musical events, but Jonathan himself and Amanda also have put on concerts at their hall. Finally, as has been mentioned already, they're active in this association, organizing the tunes aspect of the tea and tunes. And it provides not only you all with the music, but it provides us with a place to play. Traditional Irish music is not only a musical activity, it's also a deeply social one, creating community. And through their interest, effort, hospitality, and kindness, Amanda and Jonathan have helped make Irish music in our community a vital, living tradition. I am indebted to them in myriad ways, and I'm happy to add my voice to sing their praises. Thank you.
Don't make it really loud.
No, I'm too loud. Hi everyone, my name is Aiden. I went to UMass from 2015 to 2020. I did my undergrad and my graduate degree there. I'm a finance student, but I work in that now, but I very quickly hitched my wagon to Jonathan and Amanda and their Irish courses. And but before I started that, I wanted to thank Ija because she invited me to talk here. Just thought it would be funny to say that the first time I met Ija was only a few weeks into learning Irish with Jonathan and Amanda, who have really strong Northern Irish, Ulster Irish accents. He just started talking to me from Westport, and I'm way over my head. So thank you. But I just wanted to come up here and share the love that I have for the gifts that you have shared with myself, and I'm sure many of you in this room, because they're truly wonderful people and teachers, and they've given me a lot of their attention over the years, and I really value and appreciate that. Up to and including the time that I was with Jonathan in the Derry Bugga in Germano, is hermé hot sauce job Muhusa, I guess make Consul is like Igri Fijian shop, like second curse cars like Banya. I actually dumped hot sauce in my eye in the Gale talk, and Jonathan had to get it out. And through the 8 years that I've spent with them, I've really kind of bothered them many times with late night grammar questions, and multiple times they were the frustradas and dolor. It's just, I didn't think I was going to be able to go on with something that I was very, very passionate about and have been for a long time. For the longest time, my teachers and now very close friends have been able to kind of guide me through a lot of this stress and unsurety. And over the years, I think I've become a half-decent Irish speaker, so I value that as well, as I'm sure many of you have too. And I am just really happy to be here and to congratulate you guys on winning this award. So thank you so much for everything you've done for me and for the Irish community here as well.
Margaret. We're going to dispense with this gizmo. I think we're doing that. Misha, may I ask you to come forward, and may our awardees please take your seats. Yeah, it is nice to put that there. There, you can see them. And they're beautiful. You can take this off if you speak.
I'll take it off and I'll yell. It's such a pleasure to be back here in Amherst. I haven't been here since 2019 in person. It's kind of hard to believe, but it's really great to have the opportunity to be back here. Delighted to hear that you are slowly resuming your in-person gatherings, but also I just want to congratulate you all on being able to keep the community together during the last couple of challenging years. I had the pleasure of joining you online for a couple of really fun, really enjoyable occasions, and also some really quite poignant and somber ones too. So I just want to say thank you for all staying connected with each other, and also for inviting me to be part of your community from time to time. Really, really enjoy being part of it. Thank you. As with others, I echo my thanks to Ida, Tim and Sam and everybody here, because it's all of you really that put in your time as volunteers to make this community, and we all know what a precious gift community is. Thank you as well to the recipients of this year's Margaret Maher Award. It was great to hear a little bit about you all. You all sound like amazing people, all of whom have a really strong connection to Ireland, and all of whom are working to make sure those connections, whether they're family connections, community connections, language, culture connections. Culture, I think the more and more as I do this job, the more that I think that culture is the way that we keep people connected to each other and to Ireland. And in Ireland, we are so blessed that a small country like ours has such a rich culture, and we are so blessed that so many of you are passionate about it. And to me, it's really quite humbling to hear how passionate people are about their culture and about their history. It is not something that we take for granted at all. all in Ireland, and I just want to say we are really, really grateful for it. It means an awful lot to us that you all in this country remain so connected to Ireland. I think that speaks of the history of Irish people in America in a way. It's people who have come to America, made a new life for themselves and for their families. It wasn't always easy, as we heard. Some people, some families endured hardship, but people, they not only contributed in real ways to the fabric of the society of their new country, whether it's business or community or public life, but they also always remembered that connection to Ireland and worked to keep it alive. And that's been the case throughout history, and as we've heard today, it still is the case now. Not only to our awardees, but also to all of you. So I just want to say my piece and say a big Gormian Mogwood for there. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here with you, and it's a pleasure to honour all of you here today, because you are absolutely richly deserving of recognition. And it's my honour to present you with these awards. Thank you so much.
Jonathan, this is Jonathan the man with one. So, John and Maureen, you're up first. Let the young ones go first. Yes, dear, so it's on the screen. There you go. Thank you, Peter.
You sound like amazing people.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you. Jonathan and Amanda, do you want to say a few words? Because John and Maureen have said something. You've had tributes to you.
Pleasure.
Go on. What would you want?
So, thanks everyone for being here, and just big thanks. I mean, there's ways to say that. I'm very, very surprised. Even that as well.
Yeah, we had no idea these people would be saying these things.
Aidan and Ahmed, that's fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. And I'd also like to give Ahmed a big shout out, because if it wasn't for her, I don't know, I'd have gone with our own as well. I was just starting off with pipes, and in an Irish class one night, she was asking me about going over to the events at summer school. And I said, well, sorry, I'm normally quite loud, but I'm trying to, and I said, well, I wasn't able to go this summer or whatever, for whatever reason. And then she kind of asked me again the next week, and I thought, well, I still can't really go. And she said, well, basically, she helped me put the whole trip together. And so I went over, had an absolutely fantastic time at the Willie Clancy. So I heard and learned a lot of music, but that was absolutely completely changed. It's like a pill in the Matrix, right? You take a pill, you can't go back. It's like your eyes are open. Actually, it was my first international trip anyway. But it really opened my eyes to not just Ireland, Irish music, Irish Gaelic, and all this other stuff, but also just the world as well. And so I'm forever indebted to Naka for getting that first trip sorted and kicking that off. Aidan has been an incredibly diligent Irish scholar, absolutely fantastic, very, very, his heart is very into it, and we're happy to support him however we can. Or anyone else who would like to carry on with Irish, or start with Irish, because it's never too late. Right, John?
Maybe
Always start.
No, always.
Maybe I'll just say that with these various communities that we have a part in and are doing what we can for, we receive just as much back. So it means a great deal to us to be a part of the music community, a part of the Irish language community, the UMass community, the Amherst community, all these elements that come into our lives, and working with these amazing people and scholars and musicians and friends just enriches our lives so much. So it's it doesn't feel like we've done all that much because it's given all that much back to us. So thank you.
Beautiful.
One quick announcement. We talked a lot about the Irish language, the role Amanda and Jonathan have played. We have someone very famous in the Irish teaching community this year, right from Ireland, Emma Maher. Give a wave, Emma. She's right here. Somehow gets a Fulbright scholar from Ireland every year to teach us in this area Irish, and we're very fortunate. Emma's a wonderful teacher. Make sure you say hi to her when you're having tea and scone.
All right. Just to wind up, once again to thank Laoise for coming out to visit us and to acknowledge the ongoing support of the Department of Foreign Affairs Immigrant Support Programme that helps us to advertise and promote our events. It's been a crucial psychological and literally financial support, but it's that link, that's that confidence in us and that connection that keeps us going. So I just want to acknowledge that once more. We feel a connection to the motherland in that way. And to Isar Sá Chéile Bharamid is what we have on the front of our website, literally in the shadow of one another. I prefer to think of it as we thrive in our togetherness. Isar Sá Chéile Bharamid. And on that note, I want to acknowledge another member of our community, Bob McMaster, who is one of our former Margaret Maher awardees for his writing, and he's published yet another book in his Rose of Glencarry series. We have some information about it over there. Have a chat with Bob. Bob, put up your hand there, please, first. Good. He's written several mysteries, and they're rollicking stuff. So, Bob, you'll keep us going through the winter months of your work. And before we end, Al, would you ever put up your hand? Because the beautiful work. Al is one of our long-term musicians, but can you see the work that goes into this? It's inlaid in several pieces of wood. It's crafted with love and care, and we're so proud and so grateful that you do this for us for a pittance, I know. But so sponsored by Al. Tea and scone outside, that's fine, we're allowed to do that. We have the windows open and we're going to turn on the fans, so if you keep at a safe distance, you should be able to drink and eat with safety, in safety here. But if you don't, please step out into the hallway or outside and then come back in. Annie's holding up the little sandwich bags if you want to bring home your scone. And I know Laoise has a little one at home who loves her scones, and they but grab a few bags for her, Laoise. Thank you so much. Thank you to Tim, to Sam, to Annie, to our awardees, John, Maureen, Amanda, and Sheehan. Gora Mila Mahabad Galer, the tea and the scones.